So I'm making this video. It's been a tough couple of days. It's the first time I've made one of these talking to the camera type videos, but something I felt compelled to do, especially at this very moment. Um, Only people who are really close to me know this, and you might not figure it from looking at me, first impression. But I have struggled for a long time with manic depression, or now it's called bipolar depression. um, and suicidal depression for the last 5 or 6 months. And that's been on and off since I was 11 years old. I think about taking my own life at least once a day, just about every day. Sometimes it's an obsessive thought. Sometimes I wake up and the thoughts are just there. Sometimes I have it all planned out and mapped out as to how I would do it. Sometimes I'm just in my car and I get the impulse to just speed up and let go of the wheel. But it's something I've struggled with for a long time, and it's gotten really difficult. So this is sort of just a message, a video for other people who might be suffering with it, uh, and people who are friends and family of people who struggle with bipolar depression and suicidal depression. The first thing that I'll say is there's really nothing you can do as a family member or friend to stop it beyond putting your loved one in a padded room, locked away, and that'll just dehumanize the person more than they already feel. So don't beat yourself up too much as far as, what could I do? I have this discussion with my dad a lot. We're very open about it, about the suicidal thing. Um, there's nothing that you can do. It's nothing you did to cause it. It's nothing that could have been prevented or can be. It's just a matter of doing your best while the person's here. Um, so that's the first point. As far as it being a selfish or cowardly act, as people like to say, I'm still kind of on the fence with that myself. I wouldn't say it's necessarily selfish. I mean, you could look at it both ways. There's two sides to that coin. Um, and again, the way I put it to my dad is, sure, you might view it as selfish for somebody to want to take their own life because they're not thinking about everybody else around them, but when you're in that state of mind, you don't have enough care for your own self. So how could you possibly care for anybody else? If you can't care for yourself first and foremost, how are you supposed to care for anybody else? But on the other side of that, it's to me equally selfish to be mad at somebody or call them selfish or other types of names because they didn't stick around for your benefit and now you're sad. And it becomes more about the people who are living more than it is about the struggle of the person who decided to do what they did. That's just kind of the way I view it. The next thing is I'm going to preface this with just some full disclosure. People with manic depression, bipolar depression, suicidal depression, we are difficult people to deal with. I'm not at all going to deny that. I know it. I see it in the faces of people who have been there. I've heard it in the voices. I can see it in their eyes. It's a struggle to deal with somebody who feels the way that I and a lot of other people feel. Because you're walking on eggshells. I know. And there's a great deal of regret at the end of an episode because it'll be days or weeks or months and it'll just be building and building and building. And you can try all you want to be positive and be happy and reinforce with good thoughts, but the smallest little thing will bring your world crashing down. And when that happens, whoever is closest to you is going to feel the worst of the wrath. And part of me sort of had this thought, an epiphany of sorts tonight, that maybe it's because, at least for me, if I push the person I love and the people I love away from me, if I'm angry and I'm hostile and I push them away from me, then they won't be anywhere near the shockwave when I do decide to do whatever I'm going to do, if I decided to do it. You're a little more removed, you're a little bitter, you're a little sour, so it kind of takes, to me, the edge off of it. I mean, if you think about somebody who loves somebody really, really deeply and they're actively loving that person and that person's taken away, it makes it, to me, it seems like it would be so much harder than if there was a little bit of hostility. So for me, there's that. And then there's the masochistic side of having bipolar depression, where we want to feel this pain, we want to feel isolated. So we kind of do it to ourselves. We keep pushing and pushing and pushing, and then eventually, when we push that person away who said they would never go away, we say, "Ah, told you you would leave," and then we're left with the consequences. And I can say from experience that it is extremely devastating to soberly wake up to having pushed somebody out of your life and it being too late. Um, to me, that sort of is the tipping point to where those thoughts start translating into actions. And when you start feeling somebody pulling away from you, you're going to do one or two things. You're going to either, well, do one of three things. You're either going to kind of suck it up and start realizing what you're doing, or you're going to continue to push them and give maybe one big final push, or you're just going to start, like I do, you're going to start being really reckless in your behavior. And I don't drink, I don't do drugs, but I don't have a whole lot of external self-care. I take care of my body in other ways. I feed it well, I train, but a lot of other ways I don't care what happens. So there's that recklessness. As far as So yeah, let me just wrap it up with that. I understand we are very, very difficult to deal with. I am very difficult to deal with. I can't deal with myself sometimes, and as much as I wish I could, I can't separate from myself. Um, so let this be an apology to everyone who knows somebody who has bipolar depression. That it's very difficult. I understand. We're very hard people to deal with. As far as something, just a little tidbit as to what you can do to ease things a little bit, it's very important. And I had a discussion with somebody, with a close friend, about this earlier. One of the worst things that can be done is to make somebody who is in this state feel unwanted, or more unwanted than they already do. Because in our minds, and I'm when I say our and I say we, I'm not trying to speak for everybody. It's just I hear a lot of common themes with folks who have bipolar depression and are on that verge of suicide. Um, but we already feel unwanted. We already get the impression that nobody wants us around and that things would move a lot smoother if we weren't around. The world would keep turning, and it would even turn a little more efficiently if we weren't in it. And that's something that a lot of people believe to their core. I believe it to my core, that, you know, people would be better off. Yeah, there'd be the initial sadness, but everybody moves on. So if you affirm that belief, if you push somebody into their own little corner and you say, well, why don't you go over there and just be sad in your corner? Um, that is affirmation to the T, and it's only gonna it's not gonna result in anything good. I don't like to speak in can'ts or don'ts. I don't like to tell people how to live their lives. But if you can avoid it, avoid making somebody feel more unwanted than they already are, than they already feel. That's your best bet. Um, yeah. So just wanted to kind of put this out there, just a little touch and go, but some experiences within the last couple of hours have they've really hit home, and it's tough. And I'm not going to say it's going to get better, because it ebbs and it flows just like everything with life. And having this bipolar depression, it makes it really, really uncontrollable. That's the best word I can use to describe it, is uncontrollable. I can go from being a big soft teddy bear to a raging grizzly bear within an instant, and I end up hurting somebody that I love more than anything, and it's devastating to see what you've done and the carnage you've left in your wake. And when you are suicidal to begin with, it's just another notch as to why you shouldn't be here. Um, but to anybody watching this or anybody who is struggling with the same thing, I know it's not a cure-all, but you aren't alone, that's for sure. There are a lot of people who struggle. Um, so just know that you're not completely alone. And the best advice I can give you is try to find somebody who will listen. And if you can find somebody who's been there, it's a big benefit because they're not gonna look at you so crazily when you start acting out because they've been there. Um, but it's in your destiny is in your hands. Mine is in mine, and I can't make any promises. I can't say that, oh, I'm never going to go anywhere or I wouldn't do that because I don't know. From day to day, it changes. Some days I wake up and I think, oh, why was I feeling that way? And some days I just lay there and I ask whoever, God or the universe or whatever, to just take me, just be done with it. Um, and when you start to push people out of your life who really matter, it gets harder. So if you can avoid that, try. I know I struggle with it a lot. So yeah, that's pretty much it. It's just for anybody out there who struggles with it, or anybody who has a loved one or a relative or whoever that might struggle with bipolar depression, suicidal depression. So if you have any questions or anything like that, you can comment or message me or whatever you want to do. So I hope it helps a little bit and gives a little bit of insight.